Give me an example of how this has worked. And it doesn't have to be, it could be a corporate or it could be a personal example, but just an example of how that sort of mental energy redirection takes place in the real world.
I can tell you a story that has to do with corporate as well as an individual. It's the same story. So I have a long-term contract with this organization in Pennsylvania who does drug and alcohol rehab. And when I started, they had a really toxic environment. The staff felt like they were here and they were working with these degenerate alcoholics and drug addicts. And their job was to yell in their face and tell them how terrible they were and what horrible choices they were making, because the conventional wisdom at the time was people needed to bottom out before they could to really get better. And I agreed with their statement that people need to bottom out. But then I said, it might be best if the person bottoms themselves out rather than you trying to bottom them out. Because when you're trying to bottom them out, they have to resist you. But if you just allow them to live their life and through the process, you coach people to look at their behavior and their outcomes and help them bridge and make those connections that they got what they got because of what they did, not because of everything else going around them. But you don't tell them that. You ask them questions so that they can discover it themselves. And that's when there's movement. And that's the bottoming out. When you realize, man, what I'm doing is really counterproductive. I shouldn't be doing this. It's not helping me get to where I want to be. But you can't tell someone that. They have to come to that understanding on their own.
That makes perfect sense. But what about when you're dealing with people who have what may appear to be like totally irrational resistance? It's totally at an emotional level. They're not interested in the facts, or they're not interested in how something may logically connect to their interests or to the interests of other people around them. They're just running on adrenaline, and that adrenaline is pushing them to resist. What are some of the ways that you attack that through choice coaching?
The first thing I would do is change the word attack, because I'm not going to attack it at all. That puts me as adversarial, and I don't want to be adversarial. When someone is really resistant and almost irrational, or maybe completely irrational from my perspective, I think the most important thing you can do is engage Stephen Covey's habit of seek first to understand, then to be understood. Me believing that they're being totally irrational is not going to help the situation. I need to understand why they think what they think. I just had a conversation like this with my brother, who I would say is a very intelligent guy. And we just had a conversation. It was a political conversation. And he is believing some things that I think are absolutely nuts, but he believes them. And I don't believe them. And neither one of us can actually say we have firsthand knowledge and information that our position is correct. And I have to ask myself the question in our conversation, what if what he believes really is true? So I become curious instead of judgmental. And I ask him a lot of questions about it. And I'll ask him things like, what about this? Things that I believe, or what about that? Not in a confrontive way, but just in a help me understand how you think this way. And we're able to have a rational, it doesn't go to the irrational conversation then. It stays in the realm of rationality. And I think that when you do this kind of work in diversity, it's important to have the ability to make space for people having different beliefs. I remember one time I was doing a diversity training, and I had a co-trainer with me who was African-American male. And we were doing this workshop at a foster care agency. And we spent such a good 6 hours with people. And we weren't done yet. People were saying goodbye, and we were getting all these kudos. And people were saying, man, you really helped me see things in a different way. And these two women on their way out the door, I could hear them. They weren't trying to be secretive about it, but one said to the other, I don't care what they say. It's wrong for Black people and white people to get married. And I wanted to fling myself and say, oh my goodness, what did we just spend 6 hours doing? Did I completely waste my time? And when I started to feel that way, I had to check myself and say, you have to honor what you taught today, which is that they have the right to think that. I can't stop them from having this thought, nor should I stop them. They can believe that it's wrong. What I try to help people understand is whatever your values and beliefs are, they're 100% correct for one person on the planet, and that's you. So you can hold your own values and beliefs. You can be a white supremacist. I'm probably not going to be your friend, but you can be that person and you can have those beliefs for you. But when you try to spread those beliefs to other people and make other people think like you do, and you behave, that's the piece, is the behavior in a way that's not okay. That's when we have to have a conversation. But you can think whatever you want. I never go at another person that I'm trying to influence with the idea that I want to change your perception. I want to understand yours and share mine. And maybe in my sharing and not being forceful about it, you'll be able to hear me. Because when you're forcing, I say we're a lot like those parents on the Charlie Brown cartoons that go, wah, 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 wah. We think that we're influencing the person, but they're not even hearing us because we're doing it in too aggressive of a way. My hope is always, as I said, to capture hearts and minds of people, but I have to use choice theory with myself when I encounter someone who's just hell-bent on whatever they think, and there's nothing I can do to change their mind. I tell myself, there's nothing you can do to change this person's mind. Let me move into a space where there are people who want to hear and want to learn, and let me work with those folks.
That's very insightful, Kim. So let me ask you this.